Okay, look, this isn't like a plug for GPSs or anything like that, but I use Waze every day. On the road, we were discussing the other day, traffic is just insane. It's also like hard to predict, what's going to happen the next day. But, that's what life is like at the moment. Roads are crazy. A GPS helps you navigate from point A to point B, avoiding roadblocks and suggesting the best routes. A good financial plan guides you through your financial life in the same way. And a great financial advisor is the route planner and voice in the GPS, helping you steer clear of bad investments, optimizing your savings and reaching your long-term goals efficiently. Whether you're planning for retirement, growth, wealth, or managing risks, they adjust your route as circumstances change, ensuring you stay on track. Oh, I made it through like 90% of that. Hey, it's usually the first sentence that catches me.
Run it again.
I'm just going to do the last part. Is that fine? Or do you want me to do it from the top?
Yeah.
Hey, but how was that? That's a
Great.
nice analogy.
Perfect. Love it.
Oh, great. That's awesome.
Beautiful. And I like Waze as well.
Hey, Waze is so much
But some
better
people
than
say Wazi.
Wazi.
I don't know. Is it Waze or Wazi? Because I think pretty sure it's Waze, but yeah.
Sorry guys, I lost my Wazi on the way here. Yeah.
It's like someone was said to me, no, go search for something. Yes, I'll Google it.
Oh, Google it. Google it.
Pretty sure it's Google.
It's like the Nigerian thing, the Google. My
Google.
Uzman. All right. So whether you're planning for retirement, growing wealth, or managing risk, they adjust your route as circumstances change, ensuring you stay on track. So as you know, with Mind the Gap, it's all about diving into the strategies and trends shaping today's businesses and most successful people. Joining me today is a man I respect very much and I'm very excited to just listen to. He's got his own show, Money and Home. He is an ebook author and a specialist in wealth advising and financial planning space. Welcome to the show, Jean.
Thanks, Kieran.
It's great to have you on. Right, let's set the groundwork for our discussion. I think at the heart of what you do, and you can tell everyone what it is you do, are a particular set of beliefs and core values. Should we unpack from there and build up?
Sure. So I'm the managing director of a company called Velociti Financial Services. It's part of a group called Velociti Group. And I would say for us, the principles and the values that we stand by is that we want to make sure that our clients are asset rich and product poor. I think most of us grow up when we start working that we need insurance and we need medical aid, and we end up paying through our ears for these things, which is important. You do need those things, and I'm sure we'll dive into a bit of detail on that today. But very few people get into a position where they can actually build up assets and build it up to a level where they can start reducing the cost of what they pay for policies in general. And I think so many people have become accustomed to saying, it's okay, I've got a retirement plan, or my family will be okay because I've got life insurance. But that's not your retirement plan, and that should also not be your legacy. So for us, a big focus for us, that's why you'll see our company's name, Velociti, ends with an I and not a Y. And that's because we're different. We do provide insurance, but for us, it's not just about insuring, it's about insuring what you value. And we focus mainly on principles and not on products. And that's something I think is very rare and that you don't often find in the industry. So we would, if we know that we can align with a client on the principles that will help them to achieve success, we've got a client for life. And that's why we don't work on chasing high numbers in terms of signing as many clients as we can. We work on gaining trust and having clients for life. We'd rather have 10 raging fans than 100 lukewarm clients that don't really know if they want to walk the rest of the journey with us or not. So I'd say that's really at the core of our values and beliefs.
That's amazing. It's so against the status quo in the sense that I think a lot of people, even people on the receiving end buying and signing up for these products, they kind of take a machine gun approach to it. Well, I need, life insurance, I need medical insurance, I need to tick these things off the list, and then that's my financial planning done. I'm just throwing money at it. And at the end of the day, you don't know if, really that's serving you. It's certainly only serving you when the problems happen, maybe. But problems can occur from your point A to point B, like we're talking about on the GPS kind of thing. There's actually a whole bunch of other milestones and routes in that. And sometimes our planning doesn't really consider these things.
That's true. I think if you look at it from a client's perspective, most of the people, when they look at their personal finances or they look at financial products in general, it's not something that they want to spend a lot of time on. And even though they know it's important, they want to sort of just tick the box and move on with their lives and focus on their day job or what they need to do to provide an income. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
And that's why I think when that's reciprocated in terms of whoever they sit with as an advisor, it also becomes a tick the box. Let's get this policy out of the way. Let's get this stuff sorted out as quickly as possible. And then hopefully we never have to see each other again.
So it sounds like something people have to make room for. Is that what you feel like it is? Or?
I think it's more understanding that, yes, these things are important, but we need to align on certain principles before we look at what insurance you need to have or what policies you need to have in place.
Yeah.
I mean, to give you an example, you spoke about serving. So for us, a key principle in our business is not to sell, but to serve. Because if I can serve my clients, I'll have clients for life.
Right.
If I'm only focusing on selling my clients, we'll see many come in, but many leave as we go. Our retention rate is like something like 2% over the last 10 years, which is very uncommon in the industry. And, we've got a theme that we live by in our business where we say, yes, we have to be extremely responsible because we work with people's money and their livelihoods, but we also have to be loving.
Yeah.
And that's very important. So I think when that is reciprocated from the advisor's perspective or from the financial advisor's perspective with the client, that's when you're not just talking about the client's wallet, you're also talking about their heart and what's important to them and what lies at the core of their goals that they want to achieve with their financial journey. Because sometimes, or more often than not, if you want to have a client for life, you have to be willing to have the hard conversations.
Yeah.
It's not just about saying, listen, what can you afford in terms of insurance, in terms of medical aid or whatever the case may be from a product perspective, but what's going to be the right thing to do so that 5 or 10 years from now, we can be in a better position than where you started. And that's, if you look at the word velocity, the meaning of the word velocity is moving in the speed that you move in a certain direction.
Yes.
Okay. So if we want you to move in a certain direction, we have to be able to tell you even the things that you don't want to hear that will get you to move in that direction. And then ultimately it's going to depend on the joint accountability of us being able to say to the client, these are the things that you're going to have to work on, and the client taking responsibility to work on those things. Because if the client's willing to take dual responsibility, we can move in that direction much faster and much quicker.
Totally.
If the client's not willing to take that responsibility, we can do as much as we want. We might move in a certain direction, but we'll get there much slower, or we actually won't reach the end destination. And that's why
the wheels are spinning in
we have to have the hard conversation off the bat.
Yeah.
If that means that I'm losing a client as a result of giving them the right advice, I'm okay with that. And as a business, we're okay with that.
Yeah.
But if the client's willing to hear that we're not here to sell you, we're here to serve you, as you spoke about, I've found that 9 out of 10 times we're getting people that are willing to work with us, and where we can continuously have the hard conversations. Because the reality is, becoming successful financially is not easy. It's probably one of the hardest things you'll ever try and achieve in your life. And people work hard enough every single day to not get to the end of their lives and not have anything to show for it.
Yeah.
So we don't want that. We want to be able to show you that it is possible, but if we're willing to do the right things, that it is achievable.
There's a lot of passion I can hear at the heart of that, and that for people. And I mean, you must have people bring all kinds of things with them into this kind of journey. Is there anything that you would say is maybe the common mistake that happens in the first part of the journey? And maybe mistake is the wrong word. First learning curve. I think that everyone, not maybe everyone, but most people have to get over.
Very good question. I think it's much easier to have a conversation with people around how to protect themselves financially, making sure that you have a will, making sure that you have medical aid, making sure that you have insurance, whether it's short-term insurance or life policies. Most people who want to start investing, that's where the hard conversations start. And that's where the misconception comes, because a lot of people want to start investing, but from a broken foundation. And it's common in the industry to not want to fix that foundation, but just take the client's money and be happy that they sending commission your way. But it's uncommon to say, look, I'm very glad that you're willing to start investing, but we need to fix that foundation first.
Sure.
Because otherwise we're going to start moving in a certain direction and we're not going to be able to continue moving in that direction, because the first storm that comes or the first trial that comes, the house is going to collapse because the foundation isn't solid. So let's take a year or two. We're happy to walk this journey with you. We're happy to start looking at the other things that we can work on. But let's take a year or two. Let's fix that foundation first, because I know for a fact, and I've seen this with many clients that we've worked with, many people that I've helped in terms of personal finance and especially around investing. If I've got a client that's willing to work on that foundation and actually put themselves in a position to become a successful investor, that it's almost, they become unstoppable. And it's the chances that they'll fail during that, if they're willing to go through the hard yards and put in the hard work to get that foundation in place first, the chances that we'll struggle along the way is very, very, very slim.
I mean, isn't that the principle of a good plan, is reducing the margin of failure?
Correct.
And I mean, I imagine when readdressing, and it's a difficult conversation, I can assume, readdressing people's foundations in their planning, that must take some time. That's not a quick change. That's probably a lifestyle change. That's probably a habits change. That's probably a re-looking at what you do with both your time and money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good question. I'm just gonna wipe my nose.
No worries.
Sorry.
I'm gonna wipe my forehead.
No, it's fine. Don't stress.
What questions you've got entirely, but one of the questions I thought might be worth asking is around, is it ever too late to start?
Good question. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
One. Very good question.
Perfect.
So, in terms of having the hard conversation, we have to understand that most people believe that wealth creation is 80% knowledge.
Yeah.
When it's actually 80% behavior and only 20% knowledge. So we have this misperception that it's about what I've studied or what school that I go to. And even though those things are beneficial, anyone can become successful financially if they're willing to change their financial behavior.
Sure.
But the only way that you can change your behavior is by changing your beliefs.
Yeah.
Because money is actually highly emotional.
Yeah.
And we don't see it that way.
Yeah.
So if I'm willing to adapt my financial beliefs, then I won't be affected by money or emotionally affected by money as much, which means that I'll be able to control my financial behavior.
Yeah.
So it's not as much a hard conversation to have as it is a revelational conversation to have, because you just have to be able to sit with people and say, okay, what is it that you believe about money? Let's go to the root of that.
Sure.
Okay, and then let's quickly just address one or two things and adjust your belief system. And it's not saying, look, you have to change who you are. You just have to change the way that you view and understand money.
Sure, I'm very inspired by that. That's such a great point. There's such a psychology attached to money.
There's a book called The Psychology of Money.
Oh yeah?
And they touch on these very, very topics. But at the end of the day, if you go and the root of any financial book or financial principle will always be based on what do you believe when it comes to money in general.
And is it ever too late to change that belief?
No, it's never too late. It's never too late to start. And I think the biggest lesson, and this does just not just relate to money, I think life in general, is that it's not how you start, it's how you finish.
Sure, absolutely. Finishing strong.
Yeah. So we always overestimate what we can achieve in a year to 3 years, and we highly underestimate what we can achieve in 5 to 10 years. And that is specifically true about money. The reality is that if you do want to become successful financially, the first thing you have to do is look in the mirror. Because if you're in a difficult financial position, it's not going to help you play the victim, which we commonly see, especially in South Africa. It's not going to help if you blame others. Okay, you have to look in the mirror and realize that the only person that can put you in a better position is yourself.
Yeah.
You have to start working on yourself. And that means that you're going to have to, perhaps for the first 2 to 3 years, make some huge sacrifices.
Totally.
And pay a price to put yourself in a better financial position so that you can have the things you want 5 to 10 years later. But I promise you, if you're willing to do it for the first 2 to 3 years, and when all your friends are doing things that you want to do, you having to say no. You know, Dave Ramsey, one of the, I would say, unmet mentors that I have, he always says, when you start building wealth, if your friends aren't laughing at you, you're not doing it right. So you have to get radical. And it won't be forever, but if there's things you want, you pay the price in the short term, you get it in the long term. If you want things and you take it without working for it or without deserving it, you might get it in the short term, but you lose it in the long term.
Yeah. I think I can imagine for a lot of South Africans and definitely people abroad, especially in, I think, this era, we're quite defensive on our approach with money and with savings. We're quite defensive when it comes to how we think about preparing for life. How do we take that into a more offensive space?
So we have to be more transparent about our finances. I think if I look at my parents and the era that they grew up in, you never spoke to anyone about how much you earn, what your finances looks like. It's a very, very private conversation. I mean, before Facebook, we barely shared photos. And then when social media came out, now everyone knows what's happening in our lives.
Yeah.
You know, so in my opinion, we've got all these budgeting apps. Yeah. We should have a budgeting app where you could share your budget.
Imagine that, hey?
So I could see, how do you manage your finances? Or how does someone that has the same income as me, but they're actually better off financially, how do they manage their finances? So I'm not saying put your budget on Facebook, but what I am saying is we need to have accountable people in our lives. We need to have mentors, financial mentors, and hopefully your financial advisor, if you have one, is someone like that. That's why I always say when thinking of who your financial advisor should be, you can just ask yourself a very simple question, and any human being has the ability to discern between these two. It's not about what type of plan they put on the table. It's not about them saying how much money they can make you. It's just ask yourself, do they have the heart of a teacher or do they have the heart of a salesman?
Yeah.
Because if they have the heart of a salesman, my advice is run. But if they have a heart of a teacher and they're just there to really teach you and help you and guide you, then you know you've got the right person. So I think the important thing is that partnering with the right people in the first place. And then having someone that's got the right values and beliefs as you.
Absolutely. I think there's so much from that partnering that's so important, because like you said, someone could sell you anything, anything. A good enough pitch will convince most people, and it's not about that. I think it really is, as you're saying, it's about the passion to partner with people.
Yeah.
And I think that's a certainly unique, I think, difference from what I assume to be kind of the norm. I think there's a lot of myths around finance and around money as well. I mean, what would you say is a big one? Like, you need money to make money.
Good one. I just want to quickly touch on what you said previously.
Yeah, go for it.
So I think it is important to partner with the right people.
Yeah.
And sales is important. You know, I'm not saying anyone who's good at sales is bad. You know, sales is a very important skill in life, and it's something that can take you a long way. You know, if you look at successful entrepreneurs, they'll always say, oh, you need to be able to be good at sales and marketing. Okay. But I can still be good at sales if my focus is to serve people.
Yeah.
And I think the important thing is just to say to yourself, yes, I might be buying a product from this person, but is their heart in the position where they want to actually teach me how to live a better life financially?
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to myths, the biggest one is, in my opinion, is that you have to make debt in order to be able to borrow money. That's a big one that I disagree with. Okay. I'm not a fan of debt. All right. And I am even willing to say to a client that even though you have money that you'd like to invest, I'd advise that you settle your bad debt first before you invest.
Yeah.
So that's one that we can touch on a bit later and go into a bit more detail if you want.
Yeah.
I think that the fact that people will say that you can get rich quickly and that's a good thing. Okay, I don't agree with that. I think you can make money quickly. I mean, I can go and draw all the money in my account now and go to a casino and put it on red or black and double my money.
Yeah.
Or lose it.
Yeah.
But I think that fundamentally there's the myth of being able to make money quickly and that's a good thing is incorrect, and we can also touch on that. But to go back to your question on does it take money to make money? So I completely disagree with that. And I think it is a myth. I'm actually reading a book at the moment on investing in property, and they argue the same thing. So you see that often, especially when it comes to property investing.
Yeah.
But I think it's misleading.
Sure.
I think at the end of the day, it's what it should say is that you can borrow the bank's money instead of your own money to then make an investment and hopefully turn it into a profit. What you have to realize is that borrowing the bank's money is risky. I'm not saying it's not possible, but I think the problem comes in when people think that I can just borrow money, buy something, and all of a sudden it's going to become successful.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, is very dangerous. You know, if it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of study, and a lot of self-education, hard work and effort in anything for it to become successful, especially if you're going to borrow money, because you still have a responsibility to pay it back with interest.
Absolutely.
So are you willing to take the risk? The principle that we work with is, can you afford to take the risk? Okay. Have you earned the right to take that risk?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then by all means. But I mean, saying it doesn't take money to make money, for me, doesn't make any sense, because you still have to pay that money back. You're still taking money from someone else, and there's still a responsibility to pay it back. The only place where you can, where it doesn't take money to make money, is by working for someone.
Totally.
Because when you start working here, or when you started working here, they didn't say, no, you have to give us the X amount before you pay your salary.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, become an employee, because you're going to start working without giving any money, and you'll start getting money back.
You mentioned a second ago, you have to earn the right to take that risk. I think I think those were your words.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
So let's take an example. Let's say I'm married, I've got 2 kids, I'm working for a company, I'm earning a salary, and I want to start taking a bit of the extra money that I have and I want to start investing it.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is money that I have to retire from. This is money that I have to pay my kids' education from. This is money that I have to use to live from when I'm no longer able to work, or when I'm become a pensioner. So, in my opinion, certain people, depending on what life cycle you're in, depending on your age, depending on your responsibilities, we call in the industry your risk level.
Yeah.
So, what level of risk are you able to take?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if that person is sitting with 200,000 rands credit card debt and 300,000 rands personal loans, which most South Africans are sitting in,
sure,
they'll come with a position that, I think I should put all of this money into cryptocurrencies because the crypto price could jump by 200% in 6 months and I can settle my debt and I'll be A for away. So in my opinion, you have not earned the right to take that risk.
Yeah.
Okay. You first need to reduce your spending, maybe not go on holiday or eat out for the next year or two, settle your bad debt, then start investing in lower risk investments until you've built up a foundation of X amount, where we know that once you start going into more higher risk investments, you've earned the right to do that because now you've got something to fall back on if that doesn't work out. The reality is that rainy days do come for all of us.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I mean by can you afford to take that risk is, can you afford to invest in something where if it doesn't work out, you'll still be okay?
Yeah.
And there's levels to that. Okay, if that person doesn't have debt, then by all means they can start investing, but don't put it in something that has a high risk profile. Rather build up a foundation first and then go to a bit more higher risk and then a bit more higher risk and then a bit more higher risk.
Yeah.
Let's say they've already got 2 million rand in their pension fund, they've already got other investments in place, the foundation's there, and they don't have debt. Then by all means, put everything into crypto if you want, because you can afford to take that risk. Sure. Does that make sense?
But that's following trends here. I mean, crypto is an amazing thing. It's an interesting thing, but I think it's a volatile thing. It's like playing with matches and petrol. You know, you can either power your car and it's great when you know what you're doing. You've earned it. You know, you've earned the means to do it, or you're kind of following gut impulses.
Yeah.
And I think, again, going back to the psychology of money, the gut impulse thing is is a big driver, I think, for how people think of their money or think of their planning. You know, they think about the most emotive thing for the future and start planning around that, and maybe neglect some of the things that people will consider boring or consider safe or consider that. And it's an interesting thing. I can't explain it. I don't have the means to, but...
Well, it's the marshmallow effect.
Right.
You know.
Explain that, marshmallow effect.
So if you want to teach your kids how to work with money, you put them in a room, let's say if they're 5 years old, or at a young age where they're still quite reactive to their impulses. Put them in a room and then you put a marshmallow on the table. And then you say to them, okay, you can either eat this marshmallow now or wait 5 minutes and then I'm coming back and I'll give you another marshmallow. But if you eat this marshmallow now, you're not getting another marshmallow later.
Sure.
And then the principle is to try and teach them that it's better to wait 5 minutes because then you get a second marshmallow instead of eating the first one.
That's great.
So, yes, you get volatile investments and the risk is high because the reward is high, but the downside is very low because it can drop 100% overnight to 100%. But there's certain things you cannot ignore. You want to get to a level where you can start investing in stuff like that, because ignoring crypto is like ignoring AI. It's like ignoring emails or how to type 20, 30 years ago. I look at my dad, he still types with 2 fingers, and he had to send 100,000 emails over his career, but just with 2 fingers. And he made it work. Absolutely. But you know, we need to be able to adapt. You don't want to be in a position anymore where you're the guy that 20 years from now ignored these things, and then everyone's working on computers and you don't even know how to put one on.
Sure.
So it's important to be cognizant of these things, and it's important to understand how much of my portfolio do I need to allocate to that, and that also depends on how much can you afford to allocate to that. But people want things when they don't deserve it and when they can't afford it.
Yeah.
Because it's much easier for me to say, why must I wait to buy something when I can just buy it on debt, or why I can just buy it on credit? And that's fine. You can do that. But what you sacrifice in the short term, you lose in the long term. So you have to have a long-term view. That's why they call it long-term wealth, because long-term wealth is created over the long term. And I think there's a very good way for people to bring that home and to make it personal. And the way that I explain it to people is I say, what is more important to you? The growth of your bank account or the growth of your character?
Yeah.
Because for me, what matters most in life is not what you achieve, it's who you become.
Totally.
Because if you become the best version of yourself, you will be successful. If your character is strong, success will follow you. You don't have to run after it.
Yeah.
So even though it's important to grow your bank account, it's also important to grow your character.
Totally.
But you don't want your bank account to outgrow your character.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that people need to realize. Yes, it's okay to want to be successful. It's okay to want to chase money. Everybody works hard. Everybody wants to get to a certain income faster and own a certain house sooner than what they probably will. But the reality is that character growth happens over time. You cannot rush it. Unfortunately,
100%.
That's just how life works. And more often than not, character growth happens when it's not going well, when you're in difficult seasons, when you're struggling, when you're facing trials and tribulations. That's when your character grows most. So what you want to try and achieve is that the growth of your character happens alongside the growth of your bank account.
So if perseverance for it.
100%. So if you're ever in a position where you're feeling, I'm not earning enough, I'm not making enough money, you know that marshmallow, I want the second marshmallow, but I don't want to wait 5 minutes before you bring me the second marshmallow. Instead of focusing on that, rather focus on what are the characteristics that I need to work on that will enable me to get the second marshmallow. For a 5-year-old, will probably just be patience. Just learn to be patient, which is very difficult for a 5-year-old to learn. But just as we as adults find it very difficult to learn certain characteristics that will help us to grow.
It's difficult to be patient, you know.
100%.
Exactly.
But I promise you, if there's something you want, you can either achieve it the right way or the wrong way.
Totally.
There's lots of people that have lots of money, but they have very weak characters. And unfortunately, that's one of the reasons why the world and our country is in the position that it's in. Because we have leaders that have grown their bank accounts, but they haven't grown their characters. Now they're sitting, because money buys power. Money gives you influence. If I have lots of money, but I don't have a strong character, what am I going to do with it? I'm going to use it for the wrong reasons. And that's going to have a negative effect on everyone around me. Everyone that I have authority over will be negatively impacted by it. We need more people that can get into positions of power and influence that have strong characters, because that's how we're going to make progress.
It's where your money is, there your heart will be also, you know.
100%.
I think that's such an important principle. And I mean, sure. I've actually got some other questions here that I thought would be quite interesting to ask and just shoot away on. Everyone loves a good side hustle. What are some of the best ways to grow income streams without burning out?
Great question. Great question. So the only way you can do that is if you pursue something that you love. If you pursue something that you're passionate about. Okay? Because if I'm going to start a side hustle purely for the purpose of making money, you will burn out. Because anything that you want to do, that you want to become successful, that you want to grow, that you want to have a positive impact on your life, whether it's financially, whatever the case may be, will come at a price. It's not going to be easy. I can guarantee you it's going to be much harder than you think it will be. So if there's no passion, if there's no love for what I'm doing, As soon as it becomes extremely difficult, as soon as it becomes much harder than you thought it would, there's going to be zero motivation to continue.
Yeah.
So if you're not in a position where your day job is your dream job, the best side hustle to start with is something that you love. Because the reality is we're all good at something.
Yeah.
There will be something that you're good at, that a God-given gift that you have that makes people feel better about themselves, or that gives a gift that blesses people. I'll give you a good example. My wife and a good friend of hers, they started a clothing business. So they sell clothes and earrings, and it's the most unconventional way which they started the business. Okay, they're doing extremely well, but they don't even have a website. Okay, and you'd think the first thing you would do would be start a website, get an online store going, but it wasn't about that for them.
Yeah.
They just did it because they loved it. So they just started chatting to friends and selling to friends, and now they've got a catalog on WhatsApp, and they do pop-ups, and because for them it's not about the traditional way, it's just about enjoying what they do, and they do very well because they have a passion for it. And as hard as it may get, they can persevere because they enjoy it, and that is something that they are very talented at, and they love what they do. So go and sit, rather take the time. I always say to people, rather take the time to figure out what the hell do you want. Instead of just running in a certain direction, and then you're going to, sometime during that journey, you're going to realize this is not actually really what I want, and then you have to start over again.
Yeah.
Because whatever you do, you need to build momentum, and that takes time. So figure out what is it that you want. If that's not your day job, then make it a side hustle, and do it in a way where it's not about the money. It's about using the God-given gifts and talents that you have, and serve people with it, bless people with it, and then figure out how to monetize it.
Yeah.
And it will happen, but it will take time.
Your gifting will make a way.
100%.
Your gifting will make a way. I find it very interesting to watch people, and that sounds strange, but in the sense of over time. Because I think based on those things, those passion things, it's like if it was easy, everyone would do it. And you see, there's all these kind of conventional things that people seem to get to. Like, oh, okay, you're starting a clothing business, well, you need a website. That's the first place you start, like you said. But actually, that's not where you're going to find your point of difference on a relation level. That's not where you're going to find your passion opening doors, because it's such a... It is an important... It's a good thing. It's a useful thing. But I think if it stops there, or if it starts there, it can also end there. Because it's not being governed by that passion. It's not being governed by the principles that got you started in the first place. I think we very quickly get lost in, oh, well, I want to do this, but I see that it's done this way, by and large. And that's not necessarily the way that you should go. I think it's very important to look at what works, to learn from people who have walked the path, who know better, you know. This kind of conversation as an example, but it's also important to know, okay, cool, what's going to be my journey in that, and look at it hand in hand, because it's quite easy to go with one hand covering the one eye and just following one thing without taking the time. And I think that time is important, that patience is important, waiting for the second marshmallow.
That's true.
As you said, you know.
That's true.
And the next marshmallow, and just following the marshmallows coming in, and not the highs. Because I think you're starting your own business, there's lots of highs and there's lots of lows.
So there's a guy by the name of John Acuff.
Yeah.
I think it's Acuff. He wrote a book called Quitter. Brilliant book. And he speaks about the misconceptions that people have when they want to become an entrepreneur or start their own business. You know, it's there's another book that I read, I can't remember what it was, where they've statistically proven that you've got a higher chance to reach the peak of Mount Everest than to start your own business and make it successful.
Sure.
And that's not to discourage people.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in South Africa there's a desperate need for entrepreneurs. Now we're sitting with, I think, a 60% youth unemployment rate. We need more people to start companies and create jobs. And even though it's becoming exceedingly difficult to do that in South Africa, that's what we need to encourage.
Yeah.
But I do believe that if you're going to go down that route, it has to be something that you're good at. It has to be something that you're passionate about, because it's going to require a price. And it's very difficult to get there. But if you're doing something that you can pursue because the passion is there, the love for it is there, you can pursue. I mean, if you look at a guy like, I'm busy reading Elon Musk's book now.
Yeah.
And from the youngest age, he knew exactly that's where he had to go. And yes, he's got the intellect to achieve it, but the price that he had to pay to get to where he is today is huge.
Massive.
And so I can name many, many examples of people like that. So I think the important thing is that first take the time to understand, is this what you really want?
Yeah.
Okay. And then develop a plan and keep at it.
Yeah. That's great. I've also read Musk's book, and I think a lot of people take people like an Elon Musk and go, cool, I want that. But they don't think, well, what's it cost him? They don't think about that. I think it's very easy to go, okay, well, I want this, but not those things. But they come with it. You know, if you're following the same approach, the same pursuit as those people, unless you govern it on other principles and find the right people to emulate, or the right people to follow, the mentors, whether, you know, known or distant, you're just going to follow in the same path. And if you are prepared to pay that cost, well, that's you know, good for you, but it might not necessarily be good for you. It's about finding the right objectives and the right goalposts, I suppose, and looking at people, reading their books, and exposing yourself to the whole metric or spectrum, shall I say, of ways to grow in wealth, grow in your pursuits, grow in your passions. I think it's very, very, very important to look at it from all the angles you can.
Look, whether you're going to be an employee or an employer, the principles remain the same. If you've found a company that you work for, that you're passionate about, and that you can see yourself building a future in that business, you have to align with someone within that company that's already achieved success or that's ahead of you and that can mentor you, and someone that's got the same values and beliefs as you, that you can partner with, who can keep you accountable and share with you what are the things that you need to learn, what are the things that you need to grow in order to get to that next level.
Yeah.
And the same applies if you want to become an employer. You have to pick an industry, you have to pick an industry that you're passionate about, and you have to partner with someone or find a mentor or journey with someone that's already become successful in that industry, that's already achieved. I always say you have to surround yourself with two types of people. People that are going where you want to go,
right,
or who have already achieved what you aim to achieve.
Sure.
Those are the two types of people you want in your life. Okay? And whether it's as an employee or an employer, mentorship is crucial. So you have to have that. And then you have to self-educate. Because if you're not going to continuously grow, continuously learn, continuously develop yourself, continuously invest in yourself, you'll get stuck.
And there's so many
because your mentor can only take you so far.
Yeah.
But they're going to say to you, listen, here are the areas that you need to grow in. Whether it's a course that you have to go study, whether it's books that you have to read, whether it's people that you have to spend time with, whatever it may be, you have to go and put in the effort to continuously grow and develop yourself.
Brilliant.
Otherwise, you're just going to get stuck.
Brilliant. If there's any bit of advice you can give someone in, a minute, what would it be?
Best thing you can do for yourself when it comes to finances is just apply common sense.
Common sense.
I mean, if you think about it, first and foremost, figure out what do you want. Take the time to figure out what you want, because anything that you're going to pursue in life will come at a price.
Yeah.
And you have to know whether you're willing to pay that price or not.
You don't want to be surprised by those costs.
Okay, because if you're going to be surprised by the costs, one or two things are going to happen. You're either going to remain miserable, okay, or you're going to start over. And every time you start over, you lose momentum. So figure out what you want. Figure it out so that you know the day you start pursuing it, you're not going to stop.
Yeah.
You can continue and continue and continue without fail. And then you need a plan. You fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Yeah.
Okay, and if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time.
Yeah.
So you have to have a plan. And that plan will continuously develop, will continuously change, will continuously be readjusted. But you have to have a plan to say, okay, I'm here. This is point A. I want to be there. That's point B. But I know that this is the place where I want to be. This is the position that I want to pursue. This is the industry that I want to pursue. This is the area that I want to become successful in.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to pay the price to get there.
Right.
Now I need to understand, how am I going to get there?
Yeah.
You can't just thumb suck it or wish for the best. You have to have a plan. The same applies to money.
Yes.
I want to be a millionaire. Okay. How do you want to become a millionaire?
Yeah.
In what industry?
Yeah.
What price are you willing to pay to get there? Now, secondly, what's your plan? What is your plan? How are you going to apply certain things that will help you to get there? What's the practical way? And then thirdly is you have to allow the time that it takes for you to get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
For some people, it takes shorter than others. But if you know what you want, and you know what plan you're going to follow, it's not going to matter how long it takes. You're going to be okay with it, because you're not going to be continuously comparing yourself to others.
Yes.
You're going to be focused on your journey and what's your plan, not other people's journey and other people's plan. I think it's one of the biggest problems we have. We call it the curse of comparison.
Yeah, comparison is the thief of
You
joy,
know?
hey?
Comparing yourself to others,
Yeah.
the Joneses,
Yeah.
and saying, okay, no, this is... I can see XYZ's doing this and that, and you feel that, why don't you have it?
Yeah.
And that's how you know you either don't know what you want or you're following the wrong plan.
Totally.
Because if you do, it won't matter what anyone else is doing. You focused on your journey.
That's amazing.
And that's not rocket science.
No.
Like I said, common sense.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, common sense. These days, it seems to be not so common.
Yes, common sense has become extremely hard to find.
Yeah.
And we're living in a world where our common sense is being highly disregarded. But I would say...
undervalued, hey?
You know, the thing is, when it comes to money, specifically, the moment that it becomes complicated...
Yeah.
And you don't understand what you have to do... That's when you know you're not applying common sense.
Yeah.
Because common sense simplifies things. Truth is simple. It's easy. It makes sense. The only problem with common sense and truth is that more often than not, it will require you to change.
Yeah.
In order to apply it.
People don't want to...
We want other people to change. We want our circumstances to change. 100%. But we don't want to change.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to make the changes... your circumstance will change.
That's
and
amazing.
That's common sense.
So tell us, I'm going to branch out a little bit here, but I think it's a good point to leap off. I think passion and passion driving people is a big thing, and I think from this conversation, it's something that you've identified as a key driver for people, but also it's something that clearly drives you. Tell us about how you got involved in this journey, in starting this, in being part of this business and everything like that, with Velociti and all that.
Sure.
Take us through that.
So, look, passion is very important, but I think passion is driven by purpose. And I think, there's a guy called Patrick Bet-David. He wrote a book, Your Next 5 Moves.
Right.
And he identifies certain levels of motivation, what motivates you as a person.
Yeah.
And he says that the biggest motivator is purpose. If you can be motivated by purpose,
yes,
that you will be able to pursue and persevere. I listened to a preach once, and the guy said, the difference between us and success isn't always ability.
Yeah.
It's perseverance.
Wow.
And we say in our business that I'd rather hire someone that has the character that we need, even if they lack the ability. Because we can develop ability, but you can't always develop character.
Sure.
So for me, if we talk about purpose, I've always felt a purpose or a passion to be successful financially. But the reality is that I sucked at working with money. I always say to people, I felt like I was financially disabled, and unable to find a plan that worked for me. I read all the books, 4-Hour Work Week, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Art of the Deal, all the common books that say this is how you become successful, and none of that stuff worked for me. And I always felt that I was going to be used in the area of finance. But to cut a long story short, I reached a point where I was sort of desperate. I was just unable to figure this thing out. And it's really been a faith journey, to be honest. But I ended up having a coffee with our current CEO of the business 10 plus years ago.
Sure.
Not knowing that he's in the industry, not knowing that he's called to work in the area of finance, just to have a chat. And he started sharing things with me that I've never heard before. Basic common sense principles around stewardship, principles around, how should you handle debt, and how can you steward your finances better? How can you build that foundation? What are the things that I am doing wrong, actually, that none of those other books pointed out? Because all those other books, even though they're great books, they focused on increasing your means so that you can have more.
Yeah.
But for the first time, I heard advice on looking after what you have, and then you will have more.
Yeah.
I never looked at it that way.
Sure.
I never realized that maybe I don't have more because I'm mismanaging what I have. Because I'm a terrible steward of what has been given to me. And that was like a light bulb moment. It was like a light switch just went off, and I realized, wow, I've been missing it this whole time.
Sure.
And he started sharing numerous books and courses, and I was like a sponge. I just fed on all of it, and I consumed. Even till this day, I cannot stop. So that's really where the passion developed for understanding that part of personal finance and applying it in my own life. And I think literally within the space of a year, we were able to turn our financial situation around 180 degrees. And I started seeing massive breakthrough. And as I just started sharing that story with people and just telling people how amazing it is, what we've been able to achieve and what happened, that's when people started asking me for advice. And I had more and more people coming to me, and I started getting invites to go and speak at events. And even though I was working in corporate, I wasn't even in the industry. I was helping people with finances and just giving them advice on finances. And over the next 5 to 7 years, I had courses that I did on the side, and during that time I had a very, very close mentorship relationship with with our current CEO and who's a good friend of mine, Kieran de Jager. And he then eventually said to me, I think it's time that you get out of the corporate space and step into this industry. And I joined him as MD of one of the businesses. And the benefit is now I actually have the great privilege and honor to make my day job my dream job. And even though I learned a lot from corporate and I had an amazing time there and a very, very successful career, I'm now able to align my passion and purpose for personal finance within the industry of finances. And I must be honest with you, most of the people that I work with, we start on a net deficit. They've come from bad experiences with people. They've either lost money or they've been lied to, whatever the case may be. And I think it's just amazing to see how our business has grown just by doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Because people are just desperate to just get trustworthy, sound, common sense based financial advice and not getting promised things that are pie in the sky stuff. So it's been amazing. It's been probably one of the best journeys of my life. Very, very grateful, and I get to work with my mentor on a daily basis. We're building a great business, and it's been an absolute blast.
That is such a cool point to land this conversation on. That's such an inspiring journey, John.
Thank you.
I think that's so cool. Are there any questions that you guys would like to ask? I always offer this up to you. Don't look surprised. At the end of every episode, I always throw the curveball to you guys. There is one thing actually that I do want to pick up if you're still thinking of something, and that's we put a pin in debt earlier.
Yes, we did.
And I know it's popped up a couple times throughout this conversation, but I've just got a feeling that it's still an important thing that we might want to unpack.
Yes.
Well, what points do you have to say about that?
So, I strongly advise all my clients, and we live by this principle in our business, that you want to avoid bad debt as much as you can. Now, I know that there's going to be a stage in your life where you're going to have to purchase a car and you're going to want to purchase a home. I don't have a problem with that. And most of us will have to borrow money to do that. But if you're in a position where you're buying food on your credit card, like a lot of South Africans are doing at the moment, or you're having to take out personal loans just to get by. And trust me when I say I'm speaking from experience. I'm not saying this because I've never been there. I'm saying this because I have been there more than once. Okay? And you working very, very hard to get by, to grow your income, to provide for your family. Okay? Now, there's two cases. In most cases, it will be one of the two. Either you have a spending problem or you have an income problem. Okay? So, spending problem, you actually earning enough money to get by, but you're just spending more than what you earn. In that case, get onto a budget. Okay? We've got an amazing... On my website, you can download a free budgeting tool with an ebook on how to build a successful home budget. The tools are there. Okay, speak to your advisor. Get someone who can keep you accountable. I always say, get a budget buddy. It's the best thing you can do. Someone that's close to you that you know how to work with money. Share your budget with them, and help them to keep you accountable towards it. But if you've got a spending problem, it's just about learning how to spend less than you earn. Get onto a budget, stick to it, because your budget will enable you to tell your money where it should go instead of your money telling you where it's going. Okay? 100%. So put those boundaries in place. All right? Or you've got an income problem. You've cut your budget to the bone. You're not overspending. You're not living lavishly. And a lot of people are in that position. The problem is there's just not enough money coming in. Well, then, firstly, seek a mentor, self-educate, invest in yourself. Because the market will reward you for that.
Sure.
Okay? So you have to grow. You have to spend time with the right people that can teach you and tell you how you can get to that next job, how you can get that promotion, how you can scale your business, and then go and educate yourself on those things. So start investing in yourself so that you can grow your income. And when your income goes up, don't increase your means. Okay? And I'll tell you why I feel this way. Because most people, all right, they want to become successful. You can only become successful financially if you become an investor. And there's many, many ways to do that. Okay, but firstly, if I don't have an emergency fund in place and I need to put new tires on my car, okay, or something breaks and I have to fix it, which happens, we know Murphy, he comes and knocks on our door every now and then. Every person has that issue. Okay, what's going to happen? You're going to pay for those things with credit. Okay, so you're going to use a credit card or personal loan, whatever the case may be. Now the problem is that the interest rate on those things are ridiculously high.
Yeah.
Much higher than what you could potentially get from investments in the market. So you're already at a net deficit.
Yeah, you can't earn that back from an investment at the same
Exactly.
amount.
So you want to pay cash for those emergencies, and then before you start investing, get rid of that bad debt first.
Right.
Because then when you start investing, even if a big emergency comes, you're not going to have to make debt to pay for those emergencies. And secondly, if your emergency fund is in place and you don't have bad debt, okay, if you do hit a big emergency, okay, you're not going to have to pull from your investments to cover for that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you can continue investing, you can continue growing, and you continue focusing on growing your assets. All right, so I am not a big fan of personal debt or bad debt, all right, purely for the reason because I think it puts you on a broken foundation.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, when you get into a position where you're increasing your income or there's a big paycheck that comes in and you have that bad debt, settle that debt first. Get the foundation right. Because those are the principles that you can follow that's based on common sense, that it's almost impossible to fail to follow that strategy.
Yes, yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
If you want to go the other route, I know of people that are able to utilize debt, that still have bad debt, that still make money. But trust me, it's a different level of risk. It's a different level of stress, and not everyone's built for that.
Yeah.
Okay? So if that's something that you feel you're capable of doing, great. Okay? But in my opinion, get the debt out of the way, then start building wealth. You can always make debt again.
Yeah.
If you want to. It's entirely up to you. You can always go back into debt again. But if you want a fail-proof strategy that works, and let me tell you another thing, Kieran. To become successful financially is not easy. Okay? To become a successful investor is not easy. It's not impossible, but it's not easy. To pay off debt is not that difficult.
Yeah.
It's actually much easier than people think. Anyone, not everyone, can become successful investors. Anyone can become debt-free.
Sure.
I guarantee you that.
That's amazing.
Can I ask a question on that?
Go for it.
So good debt, bad debt.
Yes.
Keep referring to that. So like a home loan,
Yes.
would you say you pay that off before you invest?
No.
Or is that good debt?
I won't. So it's definitely not bad debt. It's still debt. Okay. But I would not pay off my home before I start investing. I would settle credit cards, personal loans, clothing accounts. Those things you want to get out of the way. Okay. Because if you look at what's the interest rate on a home loan, depending on what rate you get, you're looking at between 10 and 11%. Okay. Between, let's say, 9.5% and 11%. Okay. What's the interest rate on a credit card or a personal loan? Sometimes it goes up to 29, 30%. Okay. Car loans also, I think it's like 12, 13%.
12, 13.
All right. So settle the bad debt, the high interest rate debt. And again, also, when it comes to paying off debt, I love Dave Ramsey's snowball method. Most people will start by paying off the one with the highest amount that you owe. Okay. So now I owe 20,000 Rand on my credit card, but I owe 400,000 Rand on my car. That's the biggest one. Let's pay off the car first. Okay. I don't think that's the right way to do it. Okay. So what you want to do is you want to start with the lowest amount, then the second lowest, and then you move up because like we explained, money is emotional.
Yeah.
So when paying off debt, you want emotional victories. Now I might have paid the smallest one, but by the time you've paid, but that might take me 3 to 6 months, maybe even less.
Yeah.
Okay. So instead of waiting 3 years or 2 years to pay off my car loan, within the first year, I could have paid off my credit card and my personal loan. Now I had 4 debts. Now I've got 2. Emotionally, you start feeling like we're winning here.
Yeah.
Like there's a snowball effect building. And then whatever you're paying on those debts, put that into the next debt. And that's how you create a snowball effect. Okay. So, I mean, the reality is most of us are spending between 10 and 20,000 Rand a month on debt. If you can look at statistically speaking, I think South Africans in general, like 70 to 75% of their income goes towards debt. That's not obviously the home loan included. Okay. Now, if I've just got the bad debt out of the way, okay, that's probably for most people a couple of R1,000 available each month, which you keep in your budget, but then you use that to start investing. So that just, again, it's a stronger foundation, and the chances of you failing to follow the strategy. Most people, I promise you, can pay off all their bad debt within 2 years. If you really commit, if you really sacrifice, within 2 years, you can pay off your bad debt. Firstly, get your emergency fund in place. I mean, most of us have so much crap lying around in our homes that if we just sell that stuff, we've already got 10 to 20,000 rand that we can put in a savings account to cover us for short-term emergencies. And Dave Ramsey says, you must sell so much that your kids think they're next.
Your kids think they're next.
So there's ways, all I'm saying, there's ways to get that first step in place.
Yeah.
Now you know, okay, I need new tires on my tires on my car.
Yes.
We can pay cash for it. Okay. Now you start putting every single extra cent you have. You're not going on holidays. You're not eating out. You're paying the price. For the first 2 years, you put everything you have into those debts. You follow that snowball method, get the smallest one out of the way, then the next one, then the next one. 2 years later, now that foundation is there. You're sitting with the extra $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month that you can start investing. It's already in the budget. Now, instead of investing from day one, the pawpaw hits the fan 6 months later, you have to take half of that investment out to pay for the problem you have to fix. Now, instead of doing that, take 2 years, get the foundation in place, and then take the next 3 years, start investing with the right foundation, start gaining momentum. You'll achieve much more in 5 to 10 years doing that than what you will just saying, no, I'm just going to put everything into a high-risk investment and then I'll pay off my debt with that. And it's just going to be massive highs and massive lows. But if you look at most people that build financial wealth, the journey it's a steady, slow curve that moves up over time. It's not these massive jumps, massive drops, massive jumps, massive drops.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Did you have a question?
Yeah. I think that being an older person, I think when you look back, you realize that a lot of the decisions, financial outcomes, are around the decisions you make just in general. So, for example, you may want to put your children into a private school. Then you've got to live in the right area. Then you don't want to be the only parent that arrives with a Skodonki car. You want to, these things all have an impact. And I think you've got to your original point about your plan. Like, what is the plan? And then be aligned. Like, as a couple, you have to be aligned on whatever you're trying to grow and work towards together, so that you're both making those common sense decisions. And then potentially sacrificing. You might be the only family in a private school, and we've been there, where your kids aren't going on an overseas trip. Everybody else is going, and you can't afford to take 3 kids overseas when you're sitting in trying to just pay off.
I think it's such a good point to make, Kieran. I think nothing wrong with putting your kids in a private school and wanting them to have the best education possible. I do also believe that one of the best gifts you can give your kids is not for them to have to worry about you when you retire financially. So it's also important that I also have lots of clients. Now I want to put money away for my children. That's fine, but let's get you sorted out first. Let's put you in a position where they don't have to worry about you financially when you can't work anymore. And then we take care of them. Because there's enough time to do both. Okay, there's enough opportunity to do both. So, and I think you made a great example. If you're going to send your kids to private school and your budget can allow that, but your budget can't allow other things, then that is the price you're going to have to pay. What do you want? I want my kids to go to a private school. Okay, what price are you going to have to pay to put them there? No, then we can't go overseas. Everyone else might be able to, but we can't, and that's okay. We have to understand that when it comes to character building, one of the best words that will enable us to do that is the word no. No is such a powerful word, yet it's become a swear word in our culture. It's become almost the word that you're not allowed to use anymore. Yeah. But the ability to say no, sorry, we can't do that, we can't do this, it's okay. Yeah. It's a strong word, it's a powerful word, and we shouldn't be afraid to use it.
Amazing. That is awesome.
Done.
Jeez, I think we've got enough to make 2 episodes from this.
Okay.
And I actually think that would actually be a great suggestion, so we should actually look at probably doing that. So Jean, thank you so much for your time. I think that was, and your wealth of wisdom, and just being great to chat to. That was absolutely an amazing time. I think it'd be very important if we put up his website and book and the budget that you mentioned onto this as well. And if you have any other comments or questions or any experiences from your financial planning journey or anything like that, certainly put that into our comments. Let us know. And yeah.
Great. Everything's on the website. You can download it for free. And we offer free consultations for anyone that wants to chat about their personal finances. Everything's available on the site. You guys are more than welcome to share it. But thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure to be here, and I'd love to come back again.
Brilliant. I was Mind the Gap.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform.